Hey everybody, Gamer here, and welcome back to another review of Uncharted. So in the last video we reviewed Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and now we are here to review the Nathan Drake Collection Remastered Edition of Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. So if you watched my last review, you would know that I found this to be a really great game, and even though it has dated over time, I still found it to be really enjoyable. So how does Uncharted 2 hold up? Well, let's talk about the plot first. So instead of following the footsteps of Francis Drake, they are now following the footsteps of Marco Polo. And so the game starts off where Nathan wakes up all bloody and, whoa, that is something we've never seen in the first game.
That's my blood. That's my blood. It's a lot of my blood.
But if you think that's intense, it gets more intense. When this game starts off, holy shit, it began in the right way. How did Nathan get there? Why is he bleeding? Why is he in a train cargo hanging off the ledge? I don't care. All I know is that I have to survive this, and while the gameplay can get repetitive going through this chapter a second time, it's pretty neat actually climbing up a train that is constantly breaking down on you, and no matter where you move, the train is either moving or shit is falling on top of you. So yeah, it is such a great start, and all you're thinking of is how the heck did Nathan even get there, and why isn't this something that was in Uncharted 1? I mean, granted, in the first game, there were walls that would break apart if you hold on for them to... Granted, in the first game, there were walls that would break apart if you hold on for them for too long, but in this game, holy crap, everything is trying to kill you in this moment, and it is freaking awesome. Heck, this opening got critically acclaimed so much that even J.J. Abrams himself acclaimed it. Yeah, J.J. Abrams, the same director behind the latest Star Trek films, The Force Awakens, and probably a bunch of other films people don't even acknowledge. And yeah, when Nathan manages to pick up his loading screen icon, it turns out that this is something that takes place 4 months later. So 4 months earlier, we come across...
Buy me a drink, sailor.
Harry Flynn? Hey!
Hey, Harry, who the hell are you? I've never seen you in the first game. So yeah, it's interesting how this game begins with 2 new characters who we haven't even seen before, and for the fact that they're throwing exposition at you, this is definitely a scene I had to watch a second time in order to get the story that was going on.
Marco Polo leaves China with 600 passengers and 14 ships loaded down with treasure from Kublai Khan. And he lands in Persia a year and a half later with only 1 ship left and only 18 passengers. Now, he recorded every detail of his journey, but he never told what happened to all those ships and the passengers.
So somewhere out there are 13 ships loaded with the Emperor's treasure waiting to be found.
Yeah, and that is what your client is after.
So the real question is, where the heck did those other ships go? Where the heck are the other passengers? And so a possible lead to find out where those ships are is through a Mongolian oil lamp, in which, yeah, it seems to be a useless lead, but it turns out that inside the lamp is a treasure map. And honestly, I think it's best if I stop there. If I were to reveal more about this plot, I would be giving away a lot of spoilers. And yeah, it's just best if I just leave it from there and just bring up the other aspects of the game that makes this game such a great game. Because in comparison to the first game, honestly, this probably doesn't come as a surprise to Uncharted fans, but Uncharted 2 is better than Uncharted 1. Yeah, definitely not a surprise there, but Uncharted 2 takes everything that makes the first game great and makes it even better. And even the flaws that did bother me in the first game are better in this game. That is, they made improvements, not the flaws themselves. And again, the first chapter, amazing. Nathan is being pushed to his limits, he's injured, everything is falling on top of him, and spoiler alert, this is actually only halfway through the game. So half of the game came prior to this train wreck, and the other half of the game is still yet to be revealed. And yeah, well, we do get to see a little bit of Sully again, and of course Elena eventually in Uncharted. The new characters in this are really great. Chloe is such a great supporting character, and yeah, she's arguably just as great as Elena. And what is so great about both of these women is that they don't make them an archetype. I mean, Elena was really great in the first game, and she's still great in this one. And Chloe is still great on her own, and yeah, while they do play the whole love triangle between them and all that, it's really more of a tease than it is an actual dilemma or even a binary focus. Chloe and Elena both have really great personalities, and they're really great characters, and they're really great supporting casts, and they're the characters that will be following you the most throughout the entire game. And yeah, the bad guys in this game are definitely improved. I mean, granted, it is the same gameplay. Like, what is so great about Uncharted 2 is that it improves upon its gameplay. Like, it doesn't alienate itself from the first Uncharted game, it improves upon it. I mean, one of the problems that I did have with the first Uncharted game is that the combat was very repetitive in some moments, and that I felt like there was like 90% combat and 10% platforming. Well, in this game, they even it out perfectly. It's just the right amount of combat, just the right amount of hanging off of ledges, and just the right amount of puzzle solving. This game is balanced out very well, and not once did I ever want to say, oh, the combat is really getting on my nerves, I just want to get out of it. I mean, okay, granted, there are harder sections later on, but still, I enjoyed the combat sections a lot more in this game than the last game because it was evened out perfectly in this game. And yeah, in the first game, it was mostly taking place on an island. In this game, it is all over the place. It takes place in a museum, it takes place in the snowy mountains, an ice cavern, a village, a war zone in Nepal, and plenty of more locations, and the visuals are gorgeous.
Nice view.
Men.
No, I was talking about the mountains. Really.
I mean, the first Uncharted game was gorgeous as well, which is definitely a point that I forgot to bring up in my last review. But in this game, it is so freaking beautiful because there's a lot more variety. And on top of that, yeah, you do a lot more brutal combat in this game with hand-to-hand combat. Like, that was definitely a problem with the first game. It was mostly just shoot them up and whatever. But in this game, you can actually wipe out certain enemies without the other enemies noticing. So sometimes you can take cover and then press the square button to grab onto the enemy, snap their necks, and the other enemies won't notice. Or heck, there's even a crossbow later in the game that you can acquire, and this crossbow is not only powerful, but it can also work as silent kill, so you can get a headshot on an enemy and the other enemies won't notice. In many ways, I wouldn't be surprised if Tomb Raider took a little bit of inspiration from this game. And yeah, well, there's definitely a lot more of the plot. Again, it's best if I don't spoil it. It is a really great plot with a really great mythology and all that. And yeah, once again, there is supernatural elements in this game, just like the first one, except the supernatural elements are mostly downplayed in this one. I mean, in the first game, it was definitely more in your face, but in this game, it is balanced out really well that you can believe that it's mostly just native belief and whatever, but for the most part, it balances it out really well. And also another thing that I mentioned as a flaw in the first game was the last chapter of the game, chapter 22, which in this game there's 26 chapters, which probably makes the game another hour longer. And yeah, the final chapter and the final boss is no disappointment. They make a great final boss, everything is falling apart on you, and yeah, that's another great thing about this game, is that it pushes Nathan to his limits. Like in the first game, it mostly just portrayed Nathan as this Indiana Jones badass, but in this game, it pushes him to his limits. You have bridges that would fall on him, you would have him shot and of course stuck in a train. You would have a helicopter that is trying to kill him. Like, a lot of things in this game is just falling apart on you. And it's not just grabbing onto walls and whoa, whoa, because even a badass like Nathan Drake does have his limits and that he can fail. And when a game like this shows that he can fail and that he can surprisingly get out of a dangerous situation, makes it all the more great. Which, yeah, actually does bring up another great point. This game does have character development. And that was a problem that I did have with the first game, was that it lacked character development, particularly with Nathan's character. But in this game, he makes mistakes, he makes choices, and sometimes the choices don't end really well. And it's not like he makes a stupid decision or anything, it's an understandable decision and probably one that you would make too and not realize that it's going to be a mistake later on. And yeah, even Elena gets pushed to her limits in this game, which is quite depressing, but yet really awesome. This game does push these characters to their limits, and it's done to a point where it's not like Nathan is going to overcome the bad guys or anything. In many ways, the bad guys can overcome Nathan. And half of the time, it's not even the bad guys. Sometimes it's just the environment that surrounds you. And that's what makes this game so great, is that with the environment, there's so much variation in different chapters and all that. I mean, you're riding a train, jumping between trucks, and it is just freaking amazing. There's just so much variation in this game. Not once did I ever find a chapter that I was like, okay, this is seriously pissing me off, I just want this done and over with. The only time I ever said that is if I were to die in the middle of combat, but that's because the game does put up a good challenge. And by the time you get to the train, yeah, that's when it starts putting up a good challenge. But Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is such an amazing game. It takes everything that was so great in Uncharted Drake's Fortune and makes it 10 times more better, pushing the character to his limits, improving the flaws from the first game. And even though, yeah, they do make it an hour longer, it doesn't get repetitive at all. Uncharted 2 is definitely an amazing game, and it's one that I would recommend. Hell, if you do have a PlayStation 4, get the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. It's definitely something you won't regret. And you want to know why? Well, that's because the final verdict for Uncharted 2 Among Thieves gets a 4 out of 10.
4?
Sorry. A 10 out of 10. That's right. Uncharted 2 gets a 10 out of 10. And I can definitely say Uncharted 2 is up there and probably like my top 20 favorite games of all time. Heck, maybe even top 10. I don't know. I never really created a list on my top favorite games. This is a game that is definitely worth getting, whether if it's just the game alone for your PlayStation 3 or the Nathan Drake collection for the PlayStation 4. So yep, thank you guys so much for watching my review, and when we get back to the next review, we will be reviewing Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. And with Uncharted 4, Thieves' End being delayed for another 2 weeks until May 10th, this will definitely give me plenty of time to play the third game, do a review of it, and replay the games again, maybe, and yeah, I'm so hyped for Uncharted 4, so yeah, I'll see you guys in the next Uncharted review when I review Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. And yeah, I think I'm going to be playing a little bit of Uncharted 2 on crushing difficulty when I get the chance. I'm going to be so frustrated. Goodbye.